just an audio check. I hope I am clear to at least 80 to 90% of the people, because I understand there could be connectivity issues. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very clear.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So thank you, Sandhya, for the introduction. Straight away getting into the topic. In my experience, what I have seen is, as it is apt with the title which I have given, safety is always considered as a choice. It is never considered as a compulsory thing which needs to be done. It is always considered as a choice. Now, is this really a choice? If you ask me, it is never a choice. Safety should be the first priority, because it involves lives of people, it involves property, it involves every aspect of our life which we are putting it at risk. You know, it's very, very unfortunate that almost all of us feel nothing will happen to me. You know, whenever we talk about safety, the first thing which comes to mind is mujhe kuch nahi hoga, nothing will happen to me. Please understand that this is a total myth. Nothing will happen to me is never true. Anything can happen anywhere to anybody. Now, what can we do as individuals is, the best thing which we can do is we can prepare ourselves to take care in case anything happens. You know? So that is what we are going to look through into this presentation. It's very, very basic data which I have put in. There is no great deal of technicality in this, because it is more of an awareness program as to, in our day-to-day life, what is it that we need to make sure that we are taking care of. Now, putting the agenda through it. So we will basically be going through four important aspects of safety. First and the foremost is electrical safety. Second is LPG, the liquefied petroleum gas, or the pipe gas, which is coming in now. Emergency evacuation. Again, mainly looking into what different kinds of signages are there and what is it that we need to look for. What is our action in case of emergency? Fourth is fire prevention. When you look at the agenda number 1, electrical safety and LPG safety. So if the precautions are not maintained, and if something happens in the eventuality, it leads to fire. So it is very important that we again look into the fire prevention aspect as well. So starting with the first topic, yeah, and anytime anybody has a question, please pitch in at that very moment. It's not mandatory that you have to keep it at the end, right?
So up to you.
Yeah. So these two pictures. Sorry. Hello, Sonia?
No, please go ahead. Generally, we keep the questions to the end, otherwise it disrupts.
Okay.
That's why, but up to you.
Okay,
if you want to give 5 minutes in between, you can do that.
Sure. I think what we will do is post each agenda point. I will just we'll just give a 30 seconds to 1 minute for any questions or anything, and then we will continue again from there. I think that will be good.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So electrical safety. So look at these pictures. These are the two very basic pictures which probably we would have looked at. And we would have experienced this in our home, in our offices, or wherever we have gone, in hotels or pubs or any situation. The first picture, which basically highlights the blackening of these plug tops. This is the very, very first step when it comes to any kind of hazard. This is very clear indication of loose connections in the system, or a very, very wrongly used procedure. with respect to the taking the connections. Now, these are very conveniently ignored by every one of us, considering that no, isse kuch nahi hoga. This is very small. The other thing is about the loose switch ports also coming out over a period of time. Once our home or our offices are like 5 years, 7 years, these all things are something which mainly happen. So these are not to be ignored. It is very important that we get these things corrected, we get these things replaced, because ultimately these smaller aspects are the ones which lead to a bigger risk, right? Where in the risk language, we talk about something called as a severity index, okay? And we rate it from 1 to 5. Now, when you look at an individual picture like this, the severity of this individual picture, when you put it as a single entity, is 1. It's very small, but over a period of time, the severity can actually move in, because this can lead to a larger issue. The third picture, this is basically where you see that lots and lots of places which has been done, and it is any person coming into your home to work for a small drilling, or a person coming into an apartment to do some job. This is a very general practice, and when something like this is practiced, so you are basically inviting danger. 1 second, let me just change this. Yeah. So you're basically inviting danger when you're doing something like this. When you're allowing somebody to do something like this, right? These are all the causes wherein some electrical hazard, electrical short circuit can happen. Yes, there are other causes wherein you see there is a heat, because whenever there is an power transmitted through wires, wrong usage of wire is also a factor wherein we have seen a lot of accidents happening due to that. But that is not something which is in an individual's control. It is more to do with an engineer who is actually getting the things done at a very initial level. There are a lot of steps which are put in now, considering that these type of hazards, the proper selection of wires and all can be prevented. But the points which I mentioned about the blackening of plug tops, loosening of these plug tops, and wrong usage are the things which we can prevent at our level, which we have to do diligently. Then these are the good practices and the bad practices. We see this almost everywhere happening. All our basements are the most ignored places in almost all the apartments, and all wires, all connections, most of them are either hanging or connected in this haphazard manner. We can try to bring in some amount of improvement in this over a period of time, which basically will help not just with respect to the safety aspect, but also with respect to traceability as to what wire is going where, and this will help in a larger sense. Now, there is, as I said, at the Indian electrical rules point of view, there is something called as ELCB, which has been introduced about 60 years ago, which was a voltage sensing one, and the current sensing ones are introduced in about 40 years back. What is ELCB? ELCB is basically an earth leak circuit breaker. Basically, what it does is it tries to reduce the impact of a short circuit by tripping the circuit. At the so before it was only in terms of at the mains level in your main panels. Now it has been introduced even at the household level. So every house will have an ELCB and a trip circuit. Now, what is important with respect to this? Why I have put this is, we would have we would have experienced a lot of times that sometimes some circuit at our home trips, right, and certain portion will not operate. Either the microwaves or the fridge will not operate, or your regular general lighting and fans will not operate. Our general practice is we just go in, check the mains and just switch it on. Now that is where the fault lies. Somewhere there is either a blackened plug top, there is either a loosened one where the wire, the live wire, is actually touching the earth somewhere, or either somebody is using the plug with the connection without a plug top, or there is some kind of connection issue. So what our general practice is, we just go in, we just switch it on, and we start off our regular work. Please just take a minute, probably maybe not in the same night, but in the next day, and look for the problem if you can find it out. It is very, very essential to actually do this in for your own safety. And when we are living in a community, when we are living in an apartment, if there is fire, it is not just the short circuit and then the fire. It is not just we who are getting affected. A lot of other people can also get affected, and this effect is a long lasting one. So we need to check on these lines as well. Yeah. Any questions on this part of the session, the agenda, electrical safety? Yeah. Can I move on?
Yes, please. If there are any queries, I will post it on the chat group anyway. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah. So let's move on. So second important aspect is LPG cylinders. Though we have started getting piped connections in a lot of areas, but LPG cylinders is still widely used, and for sure for some more years to come, this is going to be used until going to get piped connection. With the piped connection, there is a very important safety aspect which they follow. Is one is there are gas leak detectors placed in every junction, every apartment complex, wherever it is moved, and it is a pressure sensing type. So what happens is the moment there is a difference in pressure, it actually cuts off the gas. So those kind of safety aspects are provided in the piped connections. But the same thing is not true when it comes to LPG cylinders, because we don't have any pressure sensing cutoff valve. So we as individuals will have to take care of certain basic aspects. One important aspect is, please look at this code. This is a code, okay, D17, right? This code will be there in each and every cylinder. Okay, whenever you get a new cylinder, check for this code. It is very, very essential. What does this mean? So I'll just share that, and you have one more which is A28. Okay, so this code basically to decipher it, the alphabet, there are 4 alphabets used, A, B, C, D, which refer to the quarter, like Jan, Feb, March, the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and the fourth quarter, A, B, C, D. And the number which is following it is the year of expiry of the cylinder, right? So now as we see, as we stand today in 2020, D17 is an expired cylinder, A28 is the one which is a new one. So what should you do when you get something like a D17? So you should basically tell someone to deliver it, take it back. Now you are not supposed to accept that cylinder. When it is D17, so we are basically talking about December to the end of December 2017, it can be operational. When we say A28, March 2028, until which the cylinder can be operational. This is very, very important. Why this is important is because the gas which is inside the cylinder, inside the container, is pressurized, right? So due to the pressure, what happens, and also due to the way cylinders are being handled, due to the pressure, the line, the thickness of the wall thickness, the metal thickness starts slowly deteriorating, and it reduces. over a period of time, and this is what leads to a blast in case there is a in case it is used beyond its lifetime. So this is very, very important. So please have this in mind. Show this to your all the people also, because this has to be known to every person in the household, right? Okay, next. Now, basic precautions: always ensure that the cylinder knob is closed when you are moving out for a longer time. See, technically speaking, as a if you look at the precautions given by the LPG suppliers, they say close the knob immediately after every use. Like if you are not using it, close it. If you are not using it, close it. Practically, it is very, very difficult to do that, but that is what is the requirement. Second important thing is there is a chemical which is mixed with LPG. So LPG by its own sense is completely odorless, right? You can't smell LPG actually. But to facilitate that, we know if there is a leak, ethyl mercaptan is added to it, and that is what is the smell we get when in case of a leak. So the first thing which you do is, if there is a leak, do not on any, first is do not on any LPG knobs. Second is do not on any electrical switches. Third is do not use your mobile phones near it, even the light or anything of that sort. Try to close the knob of the cylinder if possible. But the first action which you should need to do is open the doors and windows and let the air move, the volume of air, let the more volume of air move in, so that this gets diluted, right? Don't use mobile phones. It is very, very essential to understand that mobile phones are very dangerous in case there is an LPG leak. The smallest of the spark is enough for it to catch fire. As I already explained, ensure to check the expiry of the cylinder, which is very, very essential. So this is the first step of precaution which you can take during taking the delivery itself, right? Okay. Now, next agenda topic which we are to discuss is about emergency evacuation. Now, when you say emergency can be anything. For that matter, there might be a fire, there might be some amount of some break-in, there might be the fire may be in some other floor, you may be in some different floor. So we will basically take this evacuation into three different zones. The first is when you are in ground level. Okay? When you are in a ground floor, when you are in a shop, you don't have multiple floors there, you have a shop. The simplest and the easiest way is to come out of that particular place wherever you are, in case you see that there is an emergency. Now, the very important aspect which you need to look at is, how do I exit in case there is an emergency, right? Now, the fire services department and the National Building Code has made it mandatory for all the places to install signages, evacuation signages, in case there is an emergency, whether it is a single floor commercial building or a multi-storied commercial. Okay. There is a follow-up on this also being done by the authorities, but it is not to that extent. So right now we will have to make sure that we see those single shops, or the shops where we go, all have single entry and exit points. Okay. Places where there are single entry, the same place is an entry as well as an exit, basically are defined as confined spaces. Confined spaces in the sense air also moves from one place only. It comes in and goes out. Now, which is the biggest threat in case of a fire accident? It is mainly the smoke. So what happens when you have a single entry and a single exit point? The possibility of all people moving together is very, very high, right? So that is the reason now it is also made mandatory that every place should have a separate entry and a separate exit, considering that at least people will have more space to move out. let's so whenever you're in a ground level floor, the easiest the way to come out is to move out and come to an open area. That is only thing which you can do. What if you are in a multi-storied building and you are, let's say, in 8th floor, right? Office. Now, in as per the norms again, every floor after the 6th floor, like if the building goes beyond 5 floors, from the 6th floor, every 3rd floor will have something called as a open area, a free open area, which is called as a refugee area. Okay, whenever in your you are in multi-story buildings, in your offices where you go regularly, please make sure you find these areas, and also please make sure that these areas open. Now it will be in your 6th floor, 9th floor, 12th floor, and so on. Why these areas are made? Always we say, okay, you come down to the ground floor and go to the assembly point. Why these areas? 7th floor, and if the fire is in 4th floor, there is no way you can come down. It is not advised to come down. So what are your choices? Your choices are either from 7th floor you come down to 6th floor and come to the refugee area, or you go to the 9th floor and go to your refugee area. This is very important. Please make sure that whenever you are in, once you are back to your offices, make sure that these things you make sure you know these areas. Okay. Now, in case there is a smoke and you are not able to see how to move around, so it is being made mandatory by the department to have signages like these, right? The green ones which I am showing here. Okay. Now these are actually photoluminescent. So basically, one is they will be battery operated, other is either they will be fluorescent. So in case there is an emergency, and so these are the ones which will guide you with the directional arrows, right? Now the other red colored fire exit will normally be pasted on the fire exit doors wherever there is an exit point. Now these will guide you to the nearest fire exit. The second signage which you can look at is a evacuation signage, which basically shows you the exact door where you can move out for the evacuation. And the third aspect is an assembly point. Now either this will be an assembly point which will be in the ground floor, or if it is on a higher floor, it will be in 6th or 9th or 12th floor, or at the terrace, depending on what is the size of the building. Now this is the sequence which you need to follow. You always look for the fire exit first, then you look for the evacuation board. Sorry. Then you look at the evacuation boards, and then you look at the assembly point. Assembly point is the point where you will assemble, and a process is followed wherein the stewards will actually take the ERT team, the emergency response team will actually take the attendance, how many people were there, and all those things. Now these are all possible in case of places where you are in an office or something like that. What happens in case when you are in a mall or anything of that sort? So basically, assembly point is the area where you can come out. Make sure that you and your family members all are together there, and then you can move out from there. So basically, in a simple words, the moment you are at the assembly point, consider that you are safe from the emergency which was there, right? Now, signages which you need to mainly look for. One other thing, also you will have something called as an emergency escape route plan. Okay, so this mainly is posted in every high-rise building, be it a mall, be it a residential apartment, be it a commercial complex. Now, this basically also helps you to find out where you are, right? So you can see this sign here, you are here, with an arrow mark. So it basically says that you are in this corridor, right? Now from here, it gives you the direction of the nearest exit, right? So now this is your nearest exit. If you are going away, so all arrows are leading to this exit. So everybody will be coming to this point only. Like this, there will be escape route plans which should be fixed across on the building, in every floor, in the corridors, look for these, make sure that so basically it will be required when whenever you are in a mall, or whenever you are in you have gone to a high rise building where which you don't know, like you are a visitor there, so you need to look for these escape routes for you to understand how to move about, right? Right. Now the fourth agenda point we come to is the fire prevention. Now, when you look at all the safety aspects, like the electrical safety, the LPG safety, now ultimately, if there is an emergency, there is a hazard, it will be a fire hazard, because a short circuit can lead to fire hazard. Yes, it can lead to electrocution also of an individual, but on a larger aspect, it will lead to a fire hazard. LPG cylinder, if it blasts, it will lead to a fire hazard. So it is important that we understand what to do in case of fire as well. Yeah, sorry. So we basically will look at again the introduction, the causes, the precautions which you need to take, what to do in case of fire, and basic usage of an equipment. It's a fire extinguisher, right? It's very simple to use a fire extinguisher. There is a code which I will be sharing you today, and anybody can operate a fire extinguisher. Very easy to operate a fire extinguisher. So causes again electrical short circuit. So a study in India has shown that 30.8% of the fire which happens is due to electrical short circuit. Dry waste, which is collected and placed in one place, LPG cylinder, LPG and related aspects, diesel generator and transformer. These are the things which basically you find in all your apartment complexes as well as the places where you move out. Now, electrical preventive measures. Electrical installations to be checked once in 2 years. Now, one is the visual check, right? So as I showed you before, you can just look for plug points which are not proper, loose, or there is a blackening. So you just replace them. When you replace them, you basically push it to another 5 years or so. Now, even cracked switches, if there are cracks in the switches, it is better to get them replaced, right? So these are the basic things we can do. Visual checks, there is no need of bringing an electrician and checking the entire circuit once in every 2 years. But visual checks is something which we need to do as our own precaution. Once in 5 years, if you are getting some electrician and just checking the earthing as such, that will be a good practice as well. Dry waste. Dry waste, this is something which is being emphasized by the authorities also to segregate the waste, but we also have to make sure that a lot of apartments will have a lot of work going on, be it interior works or anything, and we see that lot of material, whatever remaining material like the wood waste or anything of that sort, many a places we have seen that the facility team will just when it is going out, they will just collect it and keep it in one place, and that place will become a unauthorized storage area for these kind of items. And most of the times wherever I have gone for assessment, I have seen that the safest place for them to hide it is behind the electrical panel in your electrical room, because nobody will go inside that room for ages. So they feel that that is the safest place for them to hide this material, and they keep it behind the electrical panel. So they make it a potential bomb in your case. So that is something which needs to be avoided, and all electrical rooms in particular have to be 100% clear of any foreign material, whatever it may be. You have to make sure that you have cleared all your electrical rooms 100% out of any foreign material. Okay, so dry waste, and also wherever you are collecting the dry waste, make sure that it is not near a potential hazard area. Like it should not be near a DG, it should not be near a transformer, or it should not be near an electrical panel. So it should, and the best is it should be outside in an open area. This is basically for an apartment complex what I'm trying to say. open area and in the area where no such hazards are present. Diesel generator, so diesel generator as such is not an hazard, but the diesel inside the diesel generator is a hazard. So what quantity to be stored in barrels is very, very important. Do not store anything which you need for more than 24 hours of running the DG. Meaning is very simple. A normal DG, like a 125 kVA DG, consumes around 8 to 10 liters. So if you are keeping anywhere around 200 to 240 liters, you are basically covering the entire 24 hours. Do not store anything more than that. Now, 240 liters also you need not store, because almost 120 to 150 liters is the capacity of the diesel tank inside the diesel generator. So you already will have around 10 to 15 hours. Store another 100 to 150 liters of diesel, which should be enough for you to move to 24 hours, and you can again buy if needed. Because 24 hours running a DG is in the rarest of the rarest cases. So we need to make sure that we store minimum quantity. Transformers, some apartments have transformers as part of their facility. The bigger apartments, smaller apartments may not have it as part of their inside their premises. But wherever it is inside the premises, make sure that it is barricaded and no person other than the authorized BESCOM people or the electrical person of your apartment moves there. Otherwise, it should be 100% barricaded. There are very clear norms by BESCOM as to how a transformer area should be. I can share, if someone wants it as a particular this thing, I can share it, post it across. So you can just check at your this thing as to whether this is something which is done or not done. Okay, so what to do in case of fire? Okay, so there are very basic things which you need to do. Run out of the house wherever, or the shop, or the cafe, wherever you are. When you are running out, please make sure you are looking at the signages as explained earlier to go to a proper exit. Right? Remember that there was a case in Mumbai in a pub wherein around 17 people lost their lives because they went in the wrong direction and they hid inside a bathroom. All of them died not because of fire, but because of smoke, because of asphyxiation. 95% of the cases, 99% rather, are not because of the actual fire, but because of smoke, because of stampede due to people moving around, because of less visibility and you going and hitting something else, some other pillar or this thing. So those are the kind of accidents which happen. So it is very important that you need to know the exit. Rather, I recommend whenever I am going to any new place, the first thing which I look at is how do I exit in case there is a fire from the direction where I am sitting in. Let's say I am in a pub, let's say I am in a hotel, or for a conference to some new office. The very first thing which I look at is which direction will I run and which direction will I direct other people to run in case there is a eventuality, in case there is a fire. This is very, very important. It takes hardly about a minute to understand which way to go, but it will save a lot of lives. Now, once you come out your house, now when in your house, if there is a mishap in your house, what you need to do is whenever you are coming out from a room where there has been fire, you start coming out, but then you also close that door. Pull that door and close it, and then move out, close your main door also. The reason is, if there is an open door and the fire can move out much faster. The moment you are closing these doors one by one, you are basically giving more time for the people who are coming to extinguish it. By closing it, you are giving more time to spread. That's one. Second, pull or break the glass. Okay, there are two types of switches. Sorry, I couldn't put the picture. I'll just see if I can pull it out. You have to, there will be a manual call point outside in the corridor, okay, near the staircase. Either it will be a glass type, so you need to break the glass. Now, in most of the cases where we have seen, there should be a hammer with the break glass, but you see that the hammer will be missing, right? So no need of any panic because the hammer is missing. It's a simple small 3 millimeter glass, you can even break it with your elbow, but still try to see if you can find something to break it. The moment you break it, the alarms have to ring, which basically is a message for everybody else to move out because there is an emergency. Move down to assembly area, okay, and if you see smoke, you need to stay low and crawl to the exit and get to a safe place, because you will not be able to see properly. The visibility gets hampered due to smoke. Now, fire department numbers, control room numbers are very, very important. You should know. Now, are you trained to use a fire extinguisher or a hose reel drum? If yes, if the fire is in the very, very initial stage, small and controllable, then you use the fire extinguisher or the hose reel. Right. So as I said, there is a very important code to use a fire extinguisher, right? So it's called as PASS, right? Very aptly it has been put in, and it works for your ABC type fire extinguisher and for your CO2 fire extinguisher also. All your floor corridors will have ABC type fire extinguisher. Your staircases also will have ABC or water type fire extinguisher. Now, PASS, okay? P is for pull. If you look at the extinguisher, there will be a pin, because what happens is the hand lever which is there, this particular lever which is there, will be locked with the it will be locked with the lockable unit. Yellow color normally it will be with the right. So they should not just like that squeeze the handle, because once you squeeze it and the pressure goes off, you can't use the extinguisher. So when you pull the pin, you are basically releasing this particular handle. Okay, so you pull the pin to release this handle for usage. Second is you need to aim. You need to aim. So always aim at the base of the fire, not at this top area. It will be of no use. Okay, you have to aim at the base of the fire, right? Then you have to squeeze the handle. So squeeze the handle so that the material will start coming outside. Right? The moment the material starts coming outside, then you need to sweep the nozzle side by side. So when you sweep, you are basically covering a little larger area than the fire, so that you try to diminish its effect and also avoid spreading. Right? So just repeat this. It is PASS: pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Now, when you are using a CO2 extinguisher, okay, in place of this squeeze grip handle, there will be a knob on top which you can rotate it. So you rotate it clockwise, it basically tightens, and anti-clockwise. So why CO2 has a knob is because the powder type extinguisher is a one extinguisher. Very important. It is a one-time use extinguisher. Once you squeeze this handle and the material comes out, you cannot use it again. Okay. How to determine whether this is a good extinguisher or no? You see that there is a pressure gauge, a small round gauge on every fire extinguisher now. Please note that 2014, from 2014, this has been made mandatory for all manufacturers of your apartment still has the old types. You, for your safety, it is better to replace them, because the old types is gauge and you will not know, okay, to function or no, right? So what does this gauge have? It basically has a green colored bar and it has a needle. Now if the needle is in the green area, that means the extinguisher can be used, right? If the needle is in the red zones, which means it cannot be used, so it needs to be refilled. It is not discarded, but it is refilled. So make sure that this is ensured in every floor. In your own floor, please have a look at it. It is very, very essential. So this is very important. In terms of ABC, I will repeat again, a powder type, which is either written as ABC type, dry powder type, DCP type. It is a one-time use. Okay. In case of CO2, since it is gas, it is, you can use it 2 times if you don't empty it completely. Let's say you use it and then again the material is there, so you can actually reuse it again until the entire gas is exited out. Okay, so this is important information. So CO2 is normally used in case of electrical panels and all. Now, why powder and why CO2? Mainly CO2 is expensive, but when you look at an electrical, let's say there is a short circuit in your electrical panel, and if you use powder extinguisher in that panel, then once the fire is extinguished, you have to change the entire panel because the powder would have gone inside in every component, everywhere. You can't clean it, right? When you use CO2, in the same case, you can actually replace only the parts which are damaged and still use all the other parts. So that is why when you look at the ROI in terms of this thing, CO2 makes sense uh, your UPS, for your battery, for your electrical panels, in offices, for all the IT infrastructure, all of that CO2 is used. Powder is much cheaper, very, very cheaper compared to CO2, but then it can be used for households or for any kind of smaller fires. Now, there is also a chart which I will share to Sandhya as to what type of extinguishers to be used for what kind of fires. So she can circulate it in all the groups. That will also help in terms of understanding more on the extinguishers. Right? Yeah. So this is my contact number and my email ID. So anytime anybody has any doubt on these aspects of safety, any questions, not just now, but even later, you can always get in touch with me for any questions. Yeah. So now, yeah, yeah. Any questions?
Yes.
Questions are welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Sri Krishna. Yeah, there are a couple of questions. Ajit,
Yeah.
sorry, Abhijit, would you like to ask? You can unmute yourself.
Uh, yeah, actually, I missed that ELCB point. So, could you explain what to check in the ELCB? Are you able to hear me?
Okay. So in as a here, yeah, I am able to hear you. There is no problem. I'll just answer your question. So there is nothing specific to check in the ELCB as such. Okay. So what I wanted why I put that slide up is because there is an inbuilt protection when it comes to your main supplies, right? Where you're in your home also, if it is something which is done, let's say before 10 years, right? 100% there will be an ELCB even in your individual home mains, not just in the main circuit at the basement level, right? So that is, there is additional safety which is provided so that earth leaks. When we say earth leaks, what do you mean by earth leak? If you look at any wire, okay, there is a covering on the outside, right? Either it is red, it is yellow, or it is blue, or it is black, right? So that is a protective sheath which is provided. Inside that, either there will be copper or there will be aluminum as a conductive material. Now, when this conductive material touches the earth, when I say earth, it doesn't technically mean the ground. It means whatever is connected to the ground. Even the wall, through the through your cement plastering or anything of that, all of that is considered as the earth. So if the bare wire like the copper or the aluminum touches the earth, then it actually can transmit, conduct the electricity through the earth. And since you already know our body is a very good conductor of electricity, it can actually travel through our body, right? So to avoid such mishaps, as a safety precaution, the electrical department itself, before even giving the license, they will ensure that the earth leak circuit breakers are provided. Now, what you need to check is, whenever you see that something trips in your home, right? The power goes off and when it comes back, certain portion of your home, like certain equipments operate, some don't operate. So what we normally do, we normally go to our mains, this thing, we open that front door and we see, okay, one switch is down, and we just switch it on and we start, our regular work. That is where I say, when there is a trip like this, please check for some kind of problem. There should be a problem, otherwise it will not trip just like that. So either there is a plug top, which is not functioning properly. Many a times we see that when we try to insert the plug, right, we see some sparks. That is an indication that there is a loose connection. We ignore it. We ignore it because we have an inherent sentence built into our head. It says, "Mere ko kuch nahi hoga. Nothing will happen to me." So that is where I say, please check these finer points. It can help you save your own life, your loved one's life, as well as a lot of money also. Right? That is what I said to check with respect to ELC.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, there was one more question from Arun Kumar. What are the risk factors associated with pipe gas, which is a recent phenomena in Bangalore? Yeah, there are a lot of areas where gas is being piped. So, do you think it's recommendable, or what are the things we need to keep in mind when we are going in for such a thing?
Okay. See, for the pipe gas system, there is a very clear procedure which is written down by the LPCB, the Loss Prevention Control Board of India, and the guidelines are very clearly mentioned as to how and what way it has to be distributed. Now, it has its own risks, and it has larger risks also when it comes to large size pipes which are transporting gas being dug up. In case, let's say, somebody digs it up and somebody damages it, what happens? Now, there are precautions which they take, which are installed in place. As I already mentioned, one is they have pressure sensing valves which are put in at multiple locations, which basically continuously monitor the pressure. Now, what happens when there is a leakage is there is a pressure. Technically, when you look at it, there's a pressure difference which is generated, because inside of the pipe there is a very high pressure. The moment there is a leak, because outside there is low pressure, immediately the gas tries to come out. So when this happens, there are pressure sensing valves. These sense very minute pressure and they switch off the system. Switch off the system in the sense the gas, this thing itself will get stopped. So what happens is, one is it is limiting the possibility of hazard. Not that there might be a hazard, but then it is limiting it. Second is they have detection systems installed in every place across multiple. Now, when it comes to inside the apartment, right, in the station, we have also seen now, one is the pipe gas. Pipe gas is much safer compared to, there are certain apartments where you see that there are LPG stations. Your cylinder is actually placed below ground floor and you are taking the gas at the top, right? There you don't have any safety measures in place. Detection is very, very, very essential when something like this is done. Even piped gas network, when it is coming inside the apartment, detection system has to be there. A recommendation is, if it is a pipe gas system, go for an standalone LPG detector, a wireless LPG detector, which is a standalone detector. It will not cost more than 2,000-3,000 rupees for the safety. It's an additional safety at your home. But in the apartment at the ground floor level, wherever the mains is coming in, where LPG detection has to be provided, which is very, very mandatory. And second is the pressure sensing valves have to be provided. Now, GAIL is doing the majority, all the piped gas system, and they are providing these as part of their package. Only where the apartments are doing their own systems with bottles. They are bringing in LPG bottles and then supplying it. There, I don't see these precautions being followed. So these precautions have to be followed. Otherwise, on a broader level, there is no hazard, but yes, preparedness has to be there.
Thanks, Sri Krishna. Was that in response to my question? This is Arun here.
Yes, Arun.
Yes, Arun.
Thank you very much. I lost the connection in between, and thanks you addressed this.
One more, this one. Has there been any instance where a cylinder has been rejected by a consumer due to the expiry date? I mean, how easy is it to do?
No, rejecting the cylinder is very easy. Like if you get something like this, you have to reject it. They are forced to take it back. They will not ask you any questions. As much as I understand, I have not seen any such incident reported in any specific this thing, because even at the agency level also they are taking care of it. But then this is something which, the photograph which I took for my presentation was the one which was delivered to my home. Unfortunately, it came to my home only, so I had to send it back. But I took a photograph at that time. This was in 2018, so it was delivered immediately the next quarter, right?
Yeah.
So it was not supposed to. So the instances, yeah. So it can happen. It happened with me in my this thing itself. So I can't say that it will not happen. But now a lot of precautions are being taken. They say that they are actually removing the cylinders 1 quarter before even they expire. So considering that, it should not. But then we will never know. No? It's better to be prepared.
But do they replace it immediately? Because that's always a concern, no?
Yeah. Yes. They will replace it immediately.
That's good. You made an important.
Immediately send a different one.
Mr. Sri Krishna, Muralidhar Rao here. Can I ask a question? Hello.
Like.
One second.
Hello, Mr. Sri Krishna. Yeah, Mr. Sri Krishna, the electrical inspectorate requires that this inspection happens once a year. They send you a notice, but you had talked about once in 2 years. I think you need to recheck that matter. And then in apartment complexes, I wish to bring to, your notice as well as all the apartment residents, a big area of hazard is the garden lighting. Invariably, those if they are not maintained, there are junction boxes there, and when they are repaired, etc., the electricians don't close them properly, and children are walking around those area, and if they're almost at ground level, and if there is a shorting during the rain or something like that, it can be very hazardous. That is one area I think that needs to be highlighted along. And in fact, there was one instance. In fact, there is a video also of a child getting electrocuted. So that is one area which has to be highlighted a little more. Thank you.
One second. I think there is a problem with the audio. He'll just come back.
Ma'am, this is Sanjay here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Just let me know when it's my turn to ask my question.
Mr. Sri Krishna is having trouble with his audio. Just give us a few seconds. Yeah, I think he's on.
Yeah, sorry. I think there was some.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I hear Mr. Murali Rao saying about the garden lighting point. I think that is very, very important point when it comes to this thing, apartments. Yeah. Was there a question in that? Sorry, I lost it in the middle.
No, I was in your talk. In future, when you give it, I think particularly apartment complexes, you need to highlight this area because that is a particularly hazardous area. And then I also asked about, this electrical inspectorate requires that you carry out this thing, the inspections. They send you notices, and it's annual.
Yes.
So you seem to say that it was once every 2 years. No, it is annual, and you have to engage a certified electrical contractor and carry out the necessary rectifications and submit a report. That is the normal procedure. I expect you are aware of that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely aware of that. So what I was mentioning for 2 years is basically at an individual level. When we look at our own houses, it's better to inspect once in every 2 years all the points. With respect to inspectorate, yes, it is a every year process which the association has to follow. They have to get a qualified person to get the inspection done and also get the license continued. So yes, absolutely, you are right. Very will come to that.
Yeah, Mr. Sanjay, go ahead.
Hi, Sri Krishna. Hello, Sanjay here. You said
Thanks.
something about in case of a fire. I lost my audio at that time. You should keep the door open because the smoke will come in or not come out. Something to that effect.
No.
I could.
Okay.
Please repeat that.
So sure. So basically, what I was trying to say is, in case there is fire, in case there is a fire in the place where you are, when you are running out, right? So you need to make sure that try to close the doors when you are coming out. So you are doing two things in it. One is you are giving more time for the fire to actually um, move to another room. So you are giving more time for the people who are coming to extinguish it. Second is when you are closing the doors, you are also trying to reduce the smoke entry into other areas. So when you are moving out, you should start closing the doors of that. Yes, you have to ensure that no other person is there inside when you are closing the doors. But then if you are the last person who is coming out, if you are closing the doors, you are basically helping in uh, protecting in terms of for the people who are actually coming for extinguishing the fire, and also you are reducing the smoke travel.
Yeah, thanks. That was a great point. Yeah. One more question. Elevators in apartment complexes or even commercial complexes. What is the regulation of how regularly they need to be inspected, and also putting the inspection sticker in these elevators? Because I've seen this in all the Western countries that even in commercial elevators they put that approved no certificate inside the elevator, and people traveling in the elevator know that it's a verified and elevator that's tested. uh, I don't see that being implemented all across India, whether it's commercial place or residential also. But there must be some regulation on this.
See, the elevator inspection also actually happens with the as Mr. Muralidhar was pointing out. So he is part of that inspection only. So it is being done once in every year.
Are we still live?
Yes, we are.
Hello. Yeah, Sanjay.
Yeah, but what
Yes,
about
yes.
the
Are you able to hear me?
certificates? When the local municipal authority approves or gives that certificate, is there any regulation that these have to be displayed in the elevators? Because that's the only way a consumer or a customer knows that you're traveling in an elevator, maybe in your office every day, 20 times, you know that it has been certified. Is there a regulation on that?
Yeah.
Hello,
So
Mr. Sanjay.
there is something called as a
I
license
don't think
which
there
is
is
issued.
regulation to that effect.
So
Yes,
that,
you have to, along with your other electrical equipment, you have to get it certified annually. Okay, and you'll have to keep the certificates in your possession in the office or something like that. And if the inspector comes along to or anybody asks for it, you must show it to them. But I don't think there is a stipulation that you should display it. I'm not aware. Thank you.
yeah. So there is no regulation as such that you have to display it. I have also not read anywhere which is mentioned that you have to display it in the lift. But yes, this inspection happens once in every year, and it is part of this electrical inspection. And the license has to be there so that it can be shown to the concerned authority whenever it is asked.
Okay, great. I guess maybe I touched upon an aspect that needs to change in our culture in general. You know,
Absolutely.
certificates are not, yeah. Our typical mindset has been that these licenses are to be shown only to authorities. No, these licenses are meant to be shown to authorities to avoid penalties.
Shown.
But every consumer needs to know that you are using a product or a service that is regulated or serviced or certified. I mean, if you go to a pharmacy, his license is posted very clear, and the authority clearly says this certificate of this pharmacy has to be displayed in a position place that a consumer can see. So I would not wait for general countrywide regulation to show up, but I would think that associations
Yeah.
should make that a norm, because all elevators actually have a stand for it. Unfortunately, what these elevator fellows have done is they have posted other things inside it, contact address of the person who's servicing it and all that stuff. But that position, that nameplate or whatever it's called, is actually meant for these certificates to be posted. This is what I have seen in all other high-end commercial places and in the other developed countries.
No, it is what you are pointing out is absolutely right, because if it is displayed, then there is a we are actually giving a message to all the people that this particular lift is absolutely usable and you can actually go in without any hesitation with respect to that. But as a rule, I think it should be implemented. Hopefully they will consider this also, but I don't see this as part of the act also, wherein I don't see anywhere it is mentioned that mandatorily you have to display it or anything of that sort.
Fair enough, fair enough. Fair enough, but I'm just saying our rules and regulations have always been far lagging. We as the association people who are very active and forthcoming, we should take it on ourselves to be a little more careful on this aspect. It gives a
Yes.
sense of confidence to the consumer too, right?
True. Absolutely.
Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, Sanjay. I think you have made a relevant point. That's a good practice for all of us to actually implement. Which apartment
Yes.
are you from, by the way?
I'm from Garadi Apartments in Baswangudi.
Nice. So you people display all this information in your lift, is it?
Well, I have tried to bring this to, I've highlighted it, but I have not seen it being implemented as of yet. Like I said, it's a cultural thing that change has to happen. It's not like we tend to have this common culture that we wait for the cops to show up and only then we take rectification measures. This is for self-protection and not for appeasement of authorities.
That's true. Unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I'd like to add, if you don't mind, just 10 seconds. There was a lady who mentioned about gas cylinders, and there are a couple of other things that you should check when a gas cylinder is delivered to your home. It's not just the expiration date, which I think is being done decently, but the seal of the cylinder also has to be checked. But those seals are so rudimentary that anyone can open and close it back. But there is a procedure which is written very clear and being followed if the consumer insists on it, and that is on the cylinders there are two numbers painted there. One is the weight of the empty cylinder and the weight of a filled cylinder. So whenever a cylinder is delivered to your home, it is up to the consumer to request the person to wait and verify that you have got a full cylinder. I have personally seen that it's not about somebody using it and sending it to me. It's not about cheating. It's more about, it gives an indication whether that cylinder has an inherent problem or a leak. And I have had a couple of instances where the cylinder actually had a leak, very minuscule, not easily noticeable. But when I started checking on this weight aspect, it became a good indicator to say there is something wrong with the valve inside the gas cylinder.
Okay.
When you say you check the weight, how does one do it?
Yes, good question. So the person who delivers this, he's supposed to come with the receipt, the cylinder, of course, and the weighing scale. So he's got a digital weighing. Yes, he's got a digital weighing scale. If you insist, most to 99.9%, he will never bring it with him because nobody realizes this, and who sits and checks all this stuff nowadays. We've got so many responsibilities in our life. But if you tell him, he will go and bring it down from the truck.
Oh, they have to carry it with them everywhere they go. So it's always in the truck.
Yes. Yes, he always has it. And the senior guy is sitting down in the truck. We were doing the dispatching. He has the stuff.
Hi, Abhijit here. What are the good places where we can buy a fire extinguisher? Is the online good or good reliable, or any shop where we can go and purchase these fire extinguishers?
Well, see, fire extinguisher, yes, there are a lot of, they are available very easily on Amazon also nowadays. But it is always better to get from a place where you can actually go back to if you need refilling. The best brands when it comes to fire extinguisher are, there is a brand called Safex, Minimax. So these are the well-known brands in terms of extinguisher. But yes, lot of shops in SP Road sell the extinguishers. You can actually pick up from there also, or you can go to a place like in India Mart or industrybuying.com, wherein you can buy directly from there also.
So you recommend the dry type one or the carbon dioxide one for homes? The powder type or the carbon dioxide type?
See, carbon dioxide type is normally used, as I already said that, since one is they're expensive. Second is, if you are using it for any kind of very large value item, high value items, wherein let's say certain components may get damaged, but all other components can be saved. In those cases only you use a CO2. With the CO2, with CO2, the problem is, why I don't recommend it for homes is because if you don't use it properly, if you don't aim it properly, then it is completely gone. Like, it's as good as you are just releasing air. So for people who are not trained, like in a household and all, powder is much more easier to use compared to a CO2. So powder also comes in 1 kg, 2 kg, 4 kg and 6 kg. So for small fires, 2 kg powder extinguisher is enough. If you are not able to douse the fire with that 2 kg extinguisher, then you just need to run outside, because it is not something which you can control.
Okay. Run outside and scream help.
Absolutely. You just hit the glass alarm, alert everybody, and just move out, go down, and stand in the assembly area. That's all you need to do.
And the powder ones also can be refilled, can they?
Yes. All extinguishers can be refilled. Powder also can be refilled.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think that answers everybody's questions. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sri Krishna. That was a eye-opener for all of us. Thank you for taking us through some of the important aspects which we have not been paying attention to. Hopefully now we will start. So thank you everyone for joining the session.
Yeah, thank you Sandhya for. Yeah, I thank everybody for joining, because I really appreciate people coming in and joining for a program like a safety program, because what I have seen is lack of participation in whenever it comes to awareness programs. So that is very important, but always neglected. But I thank all of you for joining in for this program very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, Beth. Good job, guys.
Thank you. Please do join in.
Absolutely.
We'll have more sessions. We'll keep you posted. Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Sandhya.
Thank you. Bye.